And if you allow me, I would like to speak a little bit about ethics, about what is the real challenge according to my vision and Concordium visions when it comes to mass adoption of the blockchain industry. And we will speak a little bit about what Concordium also is doing on the field. And I've noticed, Jeremy, I don't know if you are still here, that you are still not integrated with Concordium, so we'll have to discuss, definitely. Concordium, just to present a little bit what it is, it's a layer 1 blockchain with an identity layer at the protocol level and with real and a final finalization for every single transaction. And it means, in another way, that we have taken the regulation or the compliance challenge in a very serious way, and we have created maybe the closest solution to answer I would say, the regulation call. But this is the second part of this little, presentation. What I would like to discuss with you guys today is mostly, the necessary ethics that must, govern also what we are doing on a daily basis in general, and more especially in the fintech and the blockchain world. Just to make sure that we understand each other, by ethics, I don't speak about, morality or the way the Judean Christianism has defined ethics, meaning speaking about what is good and what is evil, or in another language, if you want to, what you can do and how you can be judged by your peers. Ethics is more a concept of a glue when it comes to the social contract that is governing our societies today, and that must be also applied on every new single society, whether it is a virtual society or a real society. In general, ethics is well known in the tech world, and especially thanks to two big philosophers. The first one is Hans Jonas, that has created back in the 70s the principle of precaution, that is now, governing most of the new laws that are taken by the big democracies. And in another word, it just, forces you to think about the next generations when you are doing something on the technology side, but not only. There is another principle that was directly coming from the ethics in general lately, and this is coming from the German philosopher Karl Popper, and it is the principle of reciprocity, or if you want to, the golden rule, as Karl Popper has defined it, that is governing most of the open source today, approach, and especially what we are doing in Concordium. But we will speak about that if we have some time. But in general, the question that we need to answer together today is why ethics is so important today, at the eve, I would say, of the birth of a new universe, like, Zuck is beginning, to build the metaverse, and especially a little bit before the machines, if you allow me to speak like a matrix guy, the machines will take over. It means that ethics is today a tool that we need to use in order to be able to still be able to control from a pure human point of view what is done by the machines and by the technology. But in general, there are some postulates that are, really interesting to understand in a global way. We are losing control, like I said, over the machines. There are some programmable piece of codes that are governing today our lives on a daily basis, but will govern our lives much more in the next future. There is a trade-off that we need to discuss of when it comes to the Western morality that was governing what we were doing until today. And like I said before, by morality, I'm speaking about good and evil judgmental approach. And we prefer, as you know, to discuss about ethics, which is much more, related to what is allowed and what is forbidden. But in general, ethics is one of the tools that could reconnect the humanity with the technology world after what I consider personally as the disaster or the failure of Web 2.0. And a little bit before the rise of the metaverse. Web 2.0 was a very nice promise, and I was there 20 years ago when we have assisted, we have been seeing, the birth of this new era in the digital world. A lot of promises were done, and in the end of the road, 20 years after that, we have created a monster ecosystem where the product is us, where on a daily basis, people are trading our digital selves without asking for permission, where privacy has disappeared, and when transparency is governing most of the things that are done there. We have a unique opportunity with Web 3.0, thanks to the blockchain technology, also to create some new sets of values that could govern the next couple of decades when it comes to the relationships that you have between the technology and humanity. The situation in the blockchain world is a little bit complex from a pure, I would say, ethical point of view. Why? And this is simply because things are going very fast. And when things are going very fast from a pure computing point of view, it's very complicated, to impose some human, I would say, set of values. And sometimes, especially in the automated market maker, world, decisions are taken based on, for example, pure profit without, taking care of other kind of values that could be included in a set, I would say, of programmable data. DeFi, as the way it is used today, could be seen as an ethical threat because of the lack of regulation compliance, but also because of the lack of usability of wealth, of the wealth that is created via DeFi. I challenge you guys to go to your accountant and try to audit your transactions after you have used anything in the current DeFi space. Piracy and illegal practice, as usual, the same way it was back in 2017 and 18 with the ICO world, are also used in the DeFi world to scam people. And this is also showing that there is some need for some order in this space in order to avoid, to see some people coming for fast exit or for exit scams, where people and users are going to be the main victims. There is also another ethical problem at the DeFi level, which is what we call the limited access to wealth. Because if you think about that, we have the perception that everybody can reach everything, and there is a kind of fair access to this new wealth. But if you think about that, and if you go deeper in your research, you will understand that there is a kind of bunch of gods, like we call it, the valley gods, that are controlling a little bit less than 90% of the world, blockchain wealth, and they are not ready to share it with the rest of humanity. And more the kind of things that we can mention here that are, really problematic from a pure ethical point of view, the opacity, the trade-off between privacy, which is very legit, and anonymity, which is something that is very problematic from a pure ethical point of view. And last but not least, the finality of what our industry is doing and the use cases. So far, we are speaking a lot about, how blockchain and how the crypto world are able to change the world. But as somebody that has begun his career as a Bitcoin miner 10 years ago, did a couple of ICOs, co-created Beam Privacy, which is a privacy coin, and now leading the marketing at Concordium, I can assure you that for the last decade, I have some difficulties to see, what is the real use case of our industry. There are some stuff that can be done, that's for sure, but I'm still waiting for the big revolution that we were promised. It's not going to happen. And another point about, the situation today, the ecosystem that we call the blockchain world is claiming to be, on the crypto anarchist side of the map, when in reality, it is a big mess that is happening inside. And by anarchy, we need to understand something that was defined by the French philosopher Joseph Proudhon, which has defined for the first time the concept of anarchy, the way I'm going to quote him. It is order without power. But nobody has said that you don't have to have any kind of order. How do we express ethics in tech? And I'm going to be very quick on this because, as you can imagine, I can definitely go on quite a long time when speaking about this. We express ethics in text by defining three big pillars. The first one is the lingua, or if you want in Greek, the logos. It means that the language that we are inventing and populating on a daily basis that is enabling us to describe the second pillar that is very interesting for us, which is the nature. We need to describe from a pure ethical point of view what is done, either with code, either with a business language, or either with a technology approach of this new reality that we are creating on a daily basis. And once the logos is existing and the nature, I would say the physios, like the Greeks were defining the nature, is described, then only we can define a set of values and rules that are, another way to express ethics. What we do at Concordium, and this is going to be the last part of my little presentation, what we do at Concordium is something that is very close to what I tried to explain a little bit before. We are trying to define a new way of discussion and a new logos that will include very much inside the necessity of being adopted from a pure mass point of view. And we believe at Concordium that no mass adoption will happen if the regulator is not involved in the process of defining what is allowed and what is forbidden. Again, very far from what is good and what is evil. We have a construct that is supporting what I'm trying to say by the fact that we have an identification layer at the protocol level, meaning that each and single transaction is trackable, but protected also by zero knowledge proof, a very interesting technology. And it means that if you play by the rules, you will be more protected from a pure financial privacy than anywhere else. But if you don't play by the rules, then you will be accountable for your transactions and for your actions. Our solution is a kind of smart and sensible balance between, identity tech and privacy tech. We have real finalization in a couple of seconds, which is not the case when it comes to some of our competitors. We have also launched a very interesting initiative that we have called the DevX initiative and allocated quite a lot of resources to support open source maintenance and open source initiatives from a pure holistic point of view, not related to Concordium and not related to the blockchain world. We believe that at Concordium, by giving to the collective, we as individuals, we will benefit very much, but we don't expect to get anything in return in reality. And to conclude, I still have 2 minutes to finish. Ethics in tech does create a kind of new social contract that is really needed to be designed by human beings and not by the machines before it will be too late. And this new social contract will govern the res publica, the same way the philosopher were defining it. Res publica in Latin means the public thing. And we are in a deep need of this new social contract that will help us to understand what we can do and what we cannot do, and mainly to agree on the fact that not everything that is possible to be done must be achieved. And that will be my last sentence. Thank you very much for having me and letting me express, this philosophy bullshit, if I might express myself this way.